Imagine a world where the highest power does not wear a crown, does not stand on podiums, and does not appear on magazine covers. Its face is hidden behind a mask. Its language, ritual, its main weapon, desire. You only see the surface, glittering shop windows, festive garlands, friendly smiles, but behind this shell, secret rooms, hypnotic melodies, games with flesh and consciousness. This is not just a story. This is a warning. Today we will lift the veil on Stanley Kubrick's most sinister creation, Eyes Wide Shut, a film that hides more than it reveals. What truly lies behind the veil of rituals and mirrors? And was it really the last thing Kubrick wanted to show us? But before we dive into the hidden architecture of desire and shadows, welcome to the channel, The Dark Storyteller. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and write in the comments, where are you watching us from, and what time is it there? Light a candle, turn off the lights, and allow yourself to open the door to a reality no one dares to speak of aloud. Eyes Wide Shut is not just a film, it is a code, a cipher left by Stanley Kubrick, for those who are ready to see beyond what the mind permits. This is not a film about marital infidelity. This is not an erotic thriller, as it was marketed. This is a multi-layered esoteric labyrinth, where every turn leads deeper into a structure of symbols, rituals, and social control, and everyone who steps into it never returns the same. The outer layer, visible and calculated, for the viewer who came for a drama with Tom Cruise. A man, a doctor, learns that his wife harbors hidden sexual fantasies. This sets off an avalanche. A night wandering through New York, temptations, forbidden encounters, a climax in a mysterious mansion. But all of this is only the beginning. What happens on screen is theater, but in Kubrick's theater, the stage is not singular. There is a backstage, and there is the real film. From the first frame, Kubrick presents not just a story, but a metaphysical structure. Many researchers believe that he built this film according to the principle of an occult ritual: initiation, splitting, revelation of truth, symbolic death, and rebirth. Bill Harford becomes the hero of an alchemical process. His familiar self dies within him, and another is born, destabilized, thirsting for knowledge, but incapable of fully grasping the truth. The atmosphere of visual claustrophobia permeates every moment. The camera slowly glides behind the protagonist, like an invisible witness. The color palette, not just style, but an instrument. Blue, cold, detachment, the state between reality and dream. Orange, temptation, the soft light of illusion. Kubrick plays with these shades, creating a dreamlike atmosphere that feels more real than the day. Behind the scenes, music plays, not just accompanying, but controlling the rhythm of thought. In the ritual scenes, the composition, Masked Ball by Jocelyn Pook, plays. It is built on a reversed Orthodox liturgy, turned into an incantation. This choral chant induces trance, activates the subconscious, and provokes immersion in symbolism. The main scene, the orgy in the mansion, is the central node of the film. The masks are identical, individuality erased. The participants do not enjoy, they perform. Everything happens according to rules, as if by script. And here emerges the film's central theme. This is not about sex, but about structure, where desire is used as a means of submission. Desire in Eyes Wide Shut is not just an emotional response or a biological instinct. It is a system of influence, a weapon in the hands of those who understand its mechanics. Throughout the film, desire emerges in many forms: repressed, uncontrolled, ritualized, disguised. At times it whispers softly through a glance, and at other moments it roars through symbols too deep for the conscious mind to grasp. Kubrick does not simply show desire, he dissects it, layer by layer, until its anatomy becomes almost unbearable to witness. When Alice confesses to Bill her secret fantasy about a naval officer, a man she was willing to leave her family for without hesitation, it's not the betrayal that strikes most. It's the rawness of the confession, that a single unacted thought could unravel a marriage built on status, comfort, and control. This moment is the fracture, the first crack in the illusion of stability. It's not infidelity that shakes Bill's world. It's the realization that he never really knew the interior life of the person closest to him. This confession becomes the match that ignites a spiral of psychological descent. Bill wanders into the night, not because of rage, but because he seeks to reclaim control over the narrative of his own masculinity. What follows is a series of encounters charged with sexuality, yet notably devoid of fulfillment. The prostitute who kisses him with practiced detachment, the masked woman at the ritual who offers protection but demands obedience, the young daughter of a patient who silently professes her love in the most unsettling way. Every woman becomes a reflection of a different aspect of desire, and every interaction ends in distance, rejection, or substitution. Kubrick deliberately presents these scenes not as titillating, but as deeply uncomfortable. The lighting is too cold or too red. The characters move too slowly. The silence lingers too long. It's as if we are watching the remnants of a dream where meaning exists, but is just beyond reach. It is no coincidence that Kubrick hired a renowned dream consultant and psychoanalyst, Dr. Leon Rappaport, during the writing process. He wanted to understand how desire and guilt manifest in dreams, and use that understanding to frame the film's logic. The result is that Eyes Wide Shut often feels less like a narrative and more like a guided hallucination, where symbols substitute for answers, and every desire leads deeper into the fog. The masked ritual scene becomes the central altar, where desire is both summoned and dissected. The participants are anonymous, but their roles are strictly defined. There is power, and there is submission. The women are presented as offerings, as if they themselves are the vessel through which something greater moves, and yet, one woman breaks the pattern. She intervenes to protect Bill. Her voice is the only one that carries warmth, and it's this disruption of the order that signals her punishment later. Desire here becomes ritualized, tamed by rules, but also weaponized by those who wrote them. The elite, faceless and voiceless in their golden masks, are not simply indulging. They are observing, testing, measuring. In this context, desire is not spontaneous or romantic. It is industrial, a process, a hierarchy. Those who don't understand the structure are consumed by it, and those who do, they design it. Many have speculated about the real-life counterparts to these scenes. Researcher Jay Dyer and author Mark Booth have pointed out parallels between the ritual in the film and accounts from whistleblowers tied to elite esoteric circles, such as the 1995 testimony of a former Vatican official who claimed similar rituals took place in high-ranking ecclesiastical orders. In the same year, journalist John DeCamp published The Franklin Cover-Up, alleging ties between powerful figures, mind control, and sex-based rituals. Whether Kubrick knew of these cases or not, his portrayal bears uncanny resemblance, not in specifics, but in structure. This structure is mirrored in the architecture of the film itself. The mansion, where the ritual takes place, Mentmore Towers in the UK, was once the seat of the Rothschild family. It is a place with a documented history of secretive high society events. That location, paired with the uncanny movement of the camera and the echoing of Gregorian chant in reverse, induces a sense of sacred dread, not because we understand what's happening, but because something in us recognizes its weight. It is the formalization of desire, molded into a language the conscious mind was not meant to speak. The duality of desire reveals itself in its consequences. Alice dreams of being taken by many men. She wakes disturbed, but liberated. She has crossed a threshold. She has seen what lies behind her fantasies, and now knows she has the power to choose whether or not to act. Bill, however, remains bound to the illusion that acting on desire is how one reclaims control, but each of his attempts strips him of more agency. He believes he is exploring, but he is being observed. This is where the mystery deepens. The film hints, ever so subtly, that Bill's journey is not spontaneous, that his presence at the ritual, his encounters with the women, even the sudden disappearance of the costume shop owner's daughter, they may all be orchestrated. A test, a lesson, or a warning. The newspaper he reads about the death of the woman who may have saved him. It's too convenient. The concierge, who knows his name without being told, too precise. The man at the costume shop, who suddenly turns accommodating when money is involved, too fast. These coincidences pile up until they cease to be coincidences at all, and that's when we begin to understand. Desire is not dangerous because of what it seeks. It is dangerous because of who controls the context in which it plays out. Unexamined desire is a leash, one you willingly attach to your own throat. Kubrick's genius lies in presenting this without preaching. He shows us a world where everyone desires, but only a few understand how desire works. And those few, they don't want love, they don't want freedom, they want obedience. The more you desire, the more you reveal, and the more you reveal, the easier you are to catalog, predict, and manage. This is the core of the film's eeriness, the realization that your passions, your fantasies, even your dreams, may not be entirely your own, that they've been seeded by those who profit from them. In 1968, media theorist Marshall McLuhan warned that the medium is the message. Kubrick takes that further. The message is desire itself, and the medium is control. Eyes Wide Shut subtly incorporates the language of advertising and cinema itself as tools of this manipulation. When Alice stands naked before a mirror, her reflection is not just visual, it's metaphorical. We are watching her through a frame. Her image becomes commodified, and Bill's desire becomes not love, but ownership. This is how modern systems of control operate, not through violence, through beauty, through want. The film's ending offers no resolution. The ritual remains unpunished, the elite untouched, the family momentarily reunited, but fundamentally changed. Alice's final word, a charged whisper, "Fuck," is not liberation, it's a reminder that even in trying to reclaim their intimacy, they remain caught in the machinery. They are together, but they are no longer whole, and this is where the deeper layer of the film rests, not in the eroticism, not in the thrill, but in the quiet horror of understanding that desire, in the wrong hands, becomes architecture, not a feeling, but a building, a system, a ritual, and unless you learn to navigate it, you are just another mask in the crowd. In Eyes Wide Shut, the mask is not a costume accessory, it is the gateway. The moment Bill Harford dons it, he ceases to exist as a man and becomes an archetype, one of many indistinguishable figures in a ritual older than language. The mask conceals, but it also reveals. It hides the face, but exposes the machinery behind the ritual. It separates the individual from their identity and creates a new social order where roles matter more than people. This is the paradox of the mask. In wearing one, you do not disappear. You become fully visible to those who know how to look. Kubrick's obsession with duality finds its most potent expression here. The mask embodies division between the self and the role, between private longing and public obedience, between the sacred and the profane. And in Eyes Wide Shut, this division is not metaphorical, it is enforced, structured, and ceremonial. When Bill enters the mansion, surrounded by masked and cloaked figures, he is not just stepping into a secret gathering, he is entering a world governed by a parallel morality, one where anonymity is power, and knowledge is forbidden to the uninitiated. To the masks worn during the ritual are not chosen at random. Many of them are Venetian, rooted in the Carnival tradition, where society was temporarily turned upside down. Paupers dressed as nobles, servants as kings. It was a moment of license and inversion, but it was also heavily policed, and those who overstepped invisible boundaries were punished. The illusion of freedom, under the gaze of strict control. This is the essence of the ritual. In the film, participants wear masks to escape identity, but their every move is monitored. The mask does not grant liberty, it ensures obedience. Venetian masks historically served multiple purposes, not just for celebration, but for espionage, seduction, and ritual magic. The boater, for instance, allowed the wearer to speak, eat, and drink without removing it, maintaining anonymity even in intimacy. In Eyes Wide Shut, this exact function is subverted. Speech is minimal, movement is slow, every glance is preordained. Kubrick turns the sensuality of the mask into something cold and liturgical, a church of shadows. But beyond the surface, the use of masks in the film reveals a deeper truth. Everyone is always masked, even outside the ritual. The costumes in the orgy are overt, but the true masquerade unfolds in daylight. Alice, elegantly dressed, smiles at her husband during a polite gathering, but she is concealing a storm of suppressed longing. Bill, respected doctor and family man, wears the mask of societal success, even as he slowly unravels. The costume shop owner presents himself as friendly and respectable, but his daughter's sudden appearance in suggestive clothing tells another story. The orgy is not the only ritual. Daily life is one continuous performance, and the real mask is the one worn without acknowledgement. This reading is reinforced by the architecture of the film itself. Mirrors are everywhere. Reflections multiply the characters. In some scenes, Bill's face is visible only through glass, a constant reminder that what we see is always filtered, duplicated, distorted. The mirror, like the mask, fractures the self. You are no longer you. You are your reflection, your role, your assigned place in the social ritual. In the ritual scene, Bill is the only one out of place. He wears a mask, but not its meaning. He walks among symbols without knowing their language, and this ignorance nearly destroys him. When he is exposed, not by unmasking, but by failing to act in accordance with the code, his fate is sealed. The circle tightens. The high priest steps forward. There is no shouting, no spectacle, just a look. The most chilling moment is not when Bill is threatened. It is when he is told that they already know who he is. His mask never protected him. It only revealed his vulnerability. Here Kubrick suggests a horrifying concept. The elite do not need to see your face to control you. They only need to know what mask you wear. Are you playing the role of the rebel, the seeker, the voyeur, the obedient spouse? Each of these identities is part of a script already written. The ritual in the mansion is a rehearsal of power dynamics replicated in every layer of society. You do not choose your mask, it is chosen for you. And if you try to remove it, you are punished. One of the most fascinating details in the film is the persistence of the mask even after the ritual ends. When Bill returns home, he finds the mask, the very one he wore during the ritual, placed on his pillow beside his sleeping wife. It's a violation, a warning, but it's also a message. The ritual never ended. It followed him, or perhaps it was always with him. The mask has become part of his reality, a talisman of transformation, or a curse. This single image, the mask beside Alice's peaceful face, distills the entire tension of the film. Trust becomes impossible, reality fractures. What was hidden is now revealed, but only partially. And in that partial revelation lies the terror. We do not know who placed the mask there. We do not know how they got inside, and that is the point. The mask is not just about who you are, it is about who knows. In Jungian psychology, the persona is the mask one wears to navigate society, a set of behaviors, roles, and appearances designed to conform to expectations. But the shadow, the hidden, repressed self, lurks behind it. Kubrick uses this exact dynamic throughout Eyes Wide Shut. Bill's journey is a confrontation with his shadow, triggered by his wife's confession and his own naive belief in moral superiority. But the more he explores, the more he sees himself, not as he imagines, but as he truly is. A man who wants control, but has none. A man who wears a mask to discover secrets, only to find that his entire life has been lived behind one. The mask also operates as a cinematic device. By covering the faces of key characters, Kubrick removes the possibility of personal empathy. We are not invited to identify with the participants in the ritual. We are forced to observe them as symbols. They are not characters. They are functions, archetypes. Their presence triggers recognition, not emotion, and in doing so, the film detaches us from narrative comfort. We are not watching a story unfold. We are watching meaning disintegrate. And yet, Kubrick does not condemn masks outright. They are necessary. They allow play, experimentation, transcendence. In ancient Greece, theatrical masks were used not to hide identity, but to channel divine archetypes. Dionysian rites involved masked dances to invoke madness, ecstasy, and contact with the gods. In Eyes Wide Shut, there are traces of this sacred logic, the idea that only by losing oneself in the role can one glimpse a higher order. But here the order is not divine, it is manufactured, not ecstasy, but surveillance, not gods, but watchers. This inversion of the sacred is one of Kubrick's most subversive gestures. He presents the ritual as if it were ancient and meaningful, with robes, incense, music, but drains it of transcendence. What remains is pure form, controlled, cold, calculating. The mask is not the gateway to another world, it is a barcode, a surveillance tag, and those who wear it are not free. They are catalogued. Even the audience wears a mask. We watch intrigued, disturbed, aroused, but always at a distance. Kubrick implicates us in the ritual by making us voyeurs. He turns the screen into a mirror. Who are we, watching these masked figures move in slow procession? Are we seeking truth or entertainment? Are we investigators or participants? These layers of ambiguity are not accidental. Kubrick understood the power of silence, of withheld information. He never explains the meaning of the ritual, never names the society behind it, never reveals the hierarchy or the rules, because the mask works best when its meaning is never fully known. It becomes a vessel for projection, our fears, our desires, our interpretations, and this is its final mastery. In the end, the mask in Eyes Wide Shut is not just a prop, it is the film. The entire experience is structured like a masked ritual. You enter without knowing what you seek. You witness something you cannot fully explain. You emerge changed, but uncertain, and somewhere along the way, you begin to suspect that you were never meant to understand, only to submit. In the flickering half-light of the ritual hall, cloaked figures move with the precision of a well-rehearsed machine. Each step echoes like a pulse, each movement timed, calculated, silent. They are masked, faceless, stripped of identity, and yet more exposed than ever. This is the paradox at the heart of Eyes Wide Shut. The mask does not set you free. It captures you. It does not hide your submission. It performs it. From the moment Bill Harford enters the mansion, the mask he wears is supposed to conceal him, but it marks him instead. The ritual participants do not need to see his face. They can smell his doubt. They feel his unease. In a space governed by code and order, true freedom is not anonymity, it is alignment, understanding, mastery of the ritual itself. Those who do not understand are seen, and those who are seen are punished. The mask ceremony is a masterpiece of cinematic unease. Every element is carefully designed to subvert the viewer's expectations of liberation. The setting, while grand, feels suffocating. The music, Gregorian chant played backwards, is not just eerie, it's deliberately disorienting. Reversing sacred sound is a technique rooted in actual occult traditions, often used to invert spiritual energy. Kubrick uses it here to invert meaning itself. What looks like ecstasy becomes coercion. What sounds like worship turns into control. The robes and masks are not costumes of empowerment, they are uniforms of hierarchy. There is a clear structure: the master of ceremonies, the enforcers, the offering women, the voyeurs. Everyone has a place, everyone plays a part, and within that order, masks serve a single purpose: not to conceal, but to ensure obedience. Their anonymity removes accountability, yes, but it also removes voice, agency, freedom. In this way, Kubrick's vision parallels real-world reports of ritualistic structures among elite circles. In 1991, journalist Nick Bryant uncovered documents tied to the Franklin scandal, allegations of abuse, cover-ups, and coded gatherings involving public figures. One recurring element was the use of disguises, masks, and silent rituals to both degrade and depersonalize participants. Those who wore masks were not liberated, they were catalogued, controlled, silenced. In Eyes Wide Shut, the masked figures never speak unless permitted. Only the master of ceremonies addresses the room. His voice is calm, confident, final. When Bill is caught, his plea for understanding is met, not with judgment, but with a reminder: remove your clothes. The command strips him not just of fabric, but of status. In that moment, he realizes the mask gave him no protection. It merely delayed the inevitable exposure. He was always naked beneath it. And what of the participants, the women who parade themselves, faces hidden, bodies bare? Are they free? Kubrick does not show us suffering, but neither does he show pleasure. Their movements are slow, dreamlike, choreographed to precision. Desire is not spontaneous, it is orchestrated. These are not lovers, they are instruments, and the mask transforms them from individuals into vessels. It is not liberation, it is liturgy. What makes this even more unsettling is that Bill is never forced to stay. He chooses to remain, despite warnings, despite knowing he is out of place. This choice mirrors a larger truth. Submission is often voluntary. We accept the mask because we believe it will give us access to what we desire: status, sex, knowledge, power. But what we receive is the ritual, the performance, the expectation to conform. Even outside the ritual space, masks persist. Bill's journey through the city becomes a shadow of the ceremony. Every encounter echoes the structure of the rite. The prostitute Domino offers affection with a practiced smile. Her name itself is a clue. Domino, one piece in a chain reaction. The costume shop, with its hidden backroom dealings, resembles a confessional dressed in neon. And the people Bill meets: Mr. Ziegler, the piano player Nick Nightingale, play roles. They say what they are allowed to say. They look away at the right moments. Everyone wears a mask, and everyone knows it. The pinnacle of this realization arrives when Ziegler finally confronts Bill. The illusion of camaraderie falls away. What remains is control. Ziegler's tone is paternal but firm. He is not offering advice. He is closing the door. He does not threaten Bill directly. He doesn't need to. The power is in implication, in the knowledge that Bill now understands the rules. He stepped into a world that does not forget, and the only way to survive is to resume the performance, to wear the mask properly this time. The real horror lies not in the ritual itself, but in the knowledge that it reflects the world outside. The ceremony was not an anomaly. It was a mirror. Our institutions, political, religious, corporate, operate under similar terms. Titles replace names. Roles replace souls. The CEO, the senator, the priest, they all wear masks sanctioned by the system. Their words, their gestures, their moralities, all scripted, all rehearsed. Kubrick's insight is not limited to the elite. He turns the lens on us, on the viewers, on society. The sexual energy that pulses beneath the film is not about liberation. It is about transaction, performance, power. And we too are masked participants. We watch, we analyze, we pretend we are outside the ritual, when in truth, we are within it. This is why the film lingers. It doesn't offer catharsis. It offers recognition. We are Bill, fumbling through veils, drawn by desire, punished by clarity. But we think we are exploring, when in truth, we are being shown our own reflection. A mask looking into a mirror, asking, who am I beneath this? And the answer comes back, exactly who we let you be. The masks also serve a protective function, but not for the wearer, for the system. By anonymizing participants, the hierarchy shields itself. There can be no accountability if there is no identity. This logic has been used throughout history. In wartime interrogations, masked executioners were common. In modern paramilitary forces, face coverings protect agents from legal reprisal. In the corporate world, decisions are made by boards, not individuals. This diffusion of responsibility is the final function of the mask. It does not only silence, it absolves. In Eyes Wide Shut, this absolution is never explicit. It is inferred. The woman who dies, was it the same woman who saved Bill? Perhaps, perhaps not. The ambiguity is deliberate. The system does not owe explanations. It operates through implication, suggestion, veiled warnings. And the mask is its ambassador, always present, always watching, never speaking unless spoken through. Even the film's title suggests this duality. Eyes Wide Shut, a contradiction, an impossibility, to see and not see, to know and to deny. This is the effect of the mask. It opens your gaze while closing your perception. You see what you are allowed to see, and nothing more. In the final scenes, when Bill confesses everything to Alice, the mask has already done its work. Not just the physical mask, but the metaphorical one. Their trust is broken, not because of what happened, but because of what it means. The illusion of transparency is shattered. They now know that behind every smile, every embrace, there may be another face, another layer. What remains is not comfort, it is awareness, and awareness is the most dangerous gift of all. The ritual ends, but the performance never stops. When Bill Harford steps back into the neon-lit streets of New York, the masks are no longer made of porcelain or velvet, but they are everywhere. A doorman who smiles too widely, a colleague who avoids eye contact, a friend who changes the subject just a little too quickly. The world of Eyes Wide Shut does not draw a line between the masquerade and the mundane. It quietly insists that the masquerade is the mundane, that every conversation is a ritual, every social interaction a carefully measured ceremony, and that the masks we wear are far more dangerous because we have forgotten we put them on. Stanley Kubrick constructs this revelation with surgical precision. The world outside the mansion is no less artificial. Bill walks through Christmas-lit streets, flanked by mannequins dressed in seductive poses. Shop windows glow like altars to consumer lust. Couples embrace too perfectly. Children smile too innocently. But the lighting is wrong. The colors are too saturated. The sounds too muffled. This isn't comfort, it's surveillance. It's a simulation of warmth over something profoundly cold. And here, the most terrifying question emerges. What if the real ritual isn't in the mansion, but in the roles we play every single day? The idea of the social mask is not a Kubrick invention. It runs deep through psychology, literature, and history. Carl Jung called it the persona, the part of ourselves we construct to interact with society. It's necessary. Without it, chaos. But when the persona becomes too fixed, it suffocates the true self. People begin to believe the mask is who they are, and behind it, the shadow grows, the repressed desires, the unspoken thoughts, the forbidden longings. In Eyes Wide Shut, this tension is everywhere. Everyone wears their mask a little too tightly. Everyone speaks as though being watched. The film's dialogue is notoriously unnatural, stilted, slow, overly formal. Critics dismissed it as wooden, but Kubrick knew exactly what he was doing. These are not people speaking. These are masks speaking to each other, reciting lines they have learned, scripts assigned to them by their professions, their marriages, their fears. Alice speaks to her husband like a performer, reading a part. Bill speaks to his patients with robotic gentleness. Even when he's in danger, he defaults to politeness. These characters aren't repressed, they've been rehearsed, and yet, desire seeps through. In glances, in silence, in dreams. Alice's confession is not just a moment of intimacy, it is a mask breaking. Her voice trembles, her eyes shift. She reveals that a single fantasy, not an action, not a betrayal, just a thought, had the power to destroy everything. Why? Because the fantasy is real, and the life they've built, polite and polished, is the costume. It's not just that we hide desire, it's that the entire structure of modern life depends on us doing so. Consider the Christmas parties that bookend the film. Both are opulent, filled with laughter and champagne, but both are underpinned by secrets. The first is where Bill meets two women who invite him to somewhere more private. The second is where Ziegler delivers his veiled warning. These are not celebrations, they are veils. The rituals of upper-class life, the polite laugh, the drink in hand, the quiet nod, all part of the choreography. And like the masked ball, they have rules. You do not speak out of turn. You do not ask questions. You smile. Ziegler himself is the embodiment of the social mask, a man who hosts glamorous parties while arranging clandestine encounters, who comforts Bill while concealing threats, who speaks in riddles but means everything. He does not need to raise his voice to assert power. The structure protects him. He is the high priest of the everyday ritual, and Kubrick films him in wide shots, from below, with backgrounds of glass and gold. A man elevated not by wisdom, but by access. But it's not just the rich. In Eyes Wide Shut, everyone performs. The waitress who flirts a moment too long. The hotel clerk who smiles but hides judgment. Even the streets are performative, dressed in fake snow, decorated like theater sets. They are not meant to be lived in, they are meant to be seen. Kubrick shot many of these scenes on sets reconstructed from photographs of Manhattan. He recreated reality as imitation, and that's the point. The world outside the ritual is just as contrived. One of the most chilling scenes is when Bill returns to the costume shop. The owner, once angry, is now friendly, eager, complicit. His daughter, a teenager, is hidden behind a curtain with two men in suits. There's laughter. There's a suggestion of money changing hands, but nothing is said aloud. No one names what is happening. It is understood. This is the mask at its most dangerous, when silence does the work of complicity. Kubrick does not moralize. He shows, and what he shows is a society where boundaries are porous, where roles shift depending on context, and where protection is granted only to those who understand how to wear the right face at the right time. This idea resonates in the real world. Sociologist Irving Goffman's 1956 book, The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life, argued that all human interactions are theatrical. We are constantly performing, adjusting our behavior, depending on audience, environment, expectation. We wear different masks at work, at home, in public. Goffman called it front stage and backstage behavior. What Kubrick adds is a warning. If we forget where the stage ends, the performance becomes the prison. Bill Harford is not punished with violence. He is punished with knowledge. By the end of the film, he sees the mask on his pillow, not as a threat, but as a message. You were always part of the ritual. You just didn't know your role. That is the core terror, not being watched, but being seen entirely, and not being able to change a thing. Even Alice, when reunited with Bill, does not express relief. Her expression is one of exhaustion, of someone who has seen through the veil and cannot unsee it. Her final suggestion, that they go and fuck, is not liberation. It's an acknowledgement that whatever intimacy they regain will still exist within the structure, that the mask is back on, but now they know it's there. Kubrick's brilliance lies in how he makes this dynamic feel familiar, because it is. We all know what it means to smile when we're angry, to compliment someone we distrust, to follow a script because deviation feels dangerous. These are not lies. They are survival strategies, social masks that protect us from conflict, rejection, exposure. But every time we wear one, the true self grows quieter. And what happens when it disappears entirely? This is the quiet dread that lingers after the film ends. That the real orgy isn't behind closed doors, but in every boardroom, every classroom, every church pew. That the roles we play, spouse, parent, friend, citizen, are built not on authenticity, but on mutual agreement, not to see, not to question, to perform. In 1999, the same year Eyes Wide Shut was released, Time magazine ran a cover story titled, The Overextended American. It chronicled the increasing pressure to maintain appearances, to perform success, to hide exhaustion, dissatisfaction, longing. The timing was not accidental. The world Kubrick captured was not fantasy, it was prophecy. He saw that the modern self was being drowned, not in repression, but in pretense. And so the film offers no villains, only masks, no final revelation, only layers. It is not a puzzle to be solved, but a mirror to be feared. And in that mirror, we see ourselves, rehearsing lines, adjusting tone, managing perception. The ritual never needed a temple, it needed a society willing to forget it was a ritual. The mirror is never just a mirror in Eyes Wide Shut. It is an opening, a tear in the surface of reality, a portal through which the unconscious breathes, watches, and sometimes whispers. As Bill Harford moves through the rooms of his own life, his reflection follows him like a twin with a different intent, a twin who remembers what the waking self denies. Kubrick's use of mirrors in the film is meticulous, deliberate, and never innocent. In his hands, the mirror becomes a narrative device, a psychological agent, and a supernatural rift, all at once. From the very beginning, reflections haunt the frame. In the first scenes, we see Alice undressing in front of a mirror, but we do not see her directly. We see her as Bill sees her, in reflection. And from that moment on, Kubrick teaches us that we are always observing something twice removed. Never the thing itself, only its image, its mask, its echo. Mirrors are everywhere in the Harford's apartment. They fragment the domestic space, they multiply bodies, they create copies, and in those copies, desire moves differently. When Alice confronts Bill about his assumptions, about fidelity, loyalty, purity, she does so in front of a mirror. Her face turns away from him, and toward her own reflection. She speaks not only to her husband, but to herself, or to the other self, the one that lives in the mirror, just behind the glass. This moment is not simply visual, it is metaphysical. She is becoming conscious of the divide within her, the obedient wife, the woman with the dream. Then in this moment of duality, Kubrick captures what most films only suggest, that we are split, that what we show and what we are have never been the same. Bill too encounters this doubling. In scene after scene, his reflection precedes him. Sometimes it lingers, sometimes it misaligns. In the scene where he kisses Domino, the prostitute, the camera pans past the action and rests on the mirror instead. We do not see the kiss. We see its reflection, not intimacy. Its image. This is where the mirror becomes treacherous. It flatters, it reflects, but it also distorts. It conceals while pretending to reveal. This tension has deep psychological roots. In Jacques Lacan's theory of the mirror stage, the child first recognizes itself in the mirror and imagines that image as a coherent whole. But this wholeness is an illusion. The real self is fragmented, vulnerable, incomplete. The mirror offers comfort, but it is also the origin of alienation. In Eyes Wide Shut, Kubrick builds on this idea. The mirror is not a symbol of vanity, it is a lie we need in order to function. Then Bill's journey is about the slow erosion of that lie. There is one moment, brief, nearly imperceptible, where this becomes undeniable. After returning home from a long fractured night, Bill stares into a mirror with hollow eyes. He does not recognize himself. The man in the glass is not the man he thought he was. He has not done anything wrong. He has not betrayed his wife, committed a crime, broken a law, but he has seen, and in that act of seeing, he has changed. The mirror reflects not guilt, but difference, a slippage, a tear in identity. This effect is not accidental. Kubrick was notoriously controlling of every visual element. In many mirror scenes, he used carefully calculated angles to manipulate depth. He would film characters at slightly off-center reflections, causing their mirrored selves to appear detached or delayed. The result is unsettling. You feel as though the reflection is thinking independently, that it may move without you. It is a technique also used in psychological horror. In 1976's The Tenant, a film Kubrick admired, Roman Polanski's character becomes haunted by his mirror image, which slowly begins to act on its own. This motif of the mirrored self becoming the dominant self echoes throughout Eyes Wide Shut. Then it reaches its peak not in the mansion, but in the quiet scenes, the hallways, the bathrooms, the bedrooms, where nothing is happening, and yet everything is shifting. There's a subtle irony to this. The Bill is a doctor, a man of science, a man who relies on observation, diagnosis, physical truth. But throughout the film, it is the symbolic, the invisible, that dismantles him. The mirror, though solid and present, reveals what is absent, certainty. Each time he looks, he sees a man slipping further from coherence, from safety, from self. The ultimate mirror, perhaps, is the mask itself, smooth, reflective, unyielding. When Bill wears the mask in the ritual, he sees nothing, and yet he is seen. The mask is a portable mirror. It reflects to others what they expect, while hiding what you refuse to confront. Then when that mask appears again, silent, inert, resting on his pillow, it reflects something deeper than fear. It reflects permanence. The ritual was not a moment. It was a mirror held up to his entire life. This symbolism extends even to the film's cinematography. Kubrick often uses symmetrical framing, characters centered, environments balanced, reflections placed precisely. But this order is a trap. It creates a false sense of control, of containment, as if the world can be understood if it is arranged just so. But the mirrors betray that illusion. They show us that symmetry is just repetition, is that balance can be a mask for chaos. In one scene, Bill walks past a mirror that shows only part of his face. The other half is swallowed by shadow. This image is not just aesthetically pleasing, it's a warning. Half of him is always elsewhere. Then the audience is left to wonder, which half do we trust? The one we see, or the one behind the glass? Throughout the film, Kubrick avoids close-ups in mirror shots. He favors medium distance, as if to say, don't get too close, don't look too long. The mirror might show you something you cannot forget. And this is exactly what happens to Bill. The longer he looks, the less he knows. His world, once grounded in routine and reason, becomes a reflection of something deeper, more primal, a place where logic bends, where desire speaks in riddles, where masks and mirrors form a language older than words. And there is one final, unshakable image: Dallas, standing in lingerie, brushing her hair in front of the mirror. A domestic scene, mundane, but layered with dread, because we no longer trust what we see. Is she herself? Is she performing? Is she alone? Or is there something else, someone else, watching from the other side of the glass? The mirror never breaks in eyes wide shut, and that is what makes it terrifying. It does not crack under pressure. It does not reveal a demon. It simply stays there, perfectly intact, reflecting the world as it is. Then that world, we realize, is far more disturbing than any fantasy. It is a world where the self is multiple, where identity is fragmented, where the eyes that look back at us from the mirror may not be ours at all. The mirror does not forget. It watches, it waits, and in eyes wide shut, it returns again and again, a silent witness to a man spiraling through identical rooms, identical thoughts, identical denials. Repetition in the film is not aesthetic. It is the core of the trap. Bill Harford does not experience new revelations. He circles them, and every reflection, every mirrored frame, every déjà vu moment tightens the noose. The ritual was never about enlightenment. It was about reminding him, again and again, that escape was never an option. Kubrick's use of repetition is deceptively subtle. Scenes echo each other in rhythm, color, even dialogue. Bill enters rooms in the same motion. He opens doors the same way. He walks down corridors that mirror each other in architecture and lighting. The illusion of progress collapses. He is not investigating. He is retracing, like a dream that resets each time you wake up, only to find yourself in the same room, hearing the same footsteps behind you. The mirrors in these repeated scenes are placed with mathematical precision. Then when Bill confronts Alice after her dream, they sit before a mirror. Then when he stands alone in a hotel room, we see his reflection multiplied in surfaces around him. Even when nothing of importance is happening, mirrors intrude into the frame. They create ghost images, faded doubles of himself, hinting that his journey is more internal than he understands. One of the most unsettling sequences comes when Bill returns again and again to the same places: the Sonata Cafe, Domino's apartment, the costume shop. Each time, something is missing, someone is gone, a name is erased, a smile is replaced by suspicion. Reality is not consistent, it's iterative, a glitching loop of failed connections. What he's chasing is not information, it's certainty, but every time he touches it, it evaporates, and yet, he returns. This loop mirrors a psychological state known as cognitive dissonance, first defined by Leon Festinger in 1957. It refers to the discomfort felt when holding two conflicting beliefs. For example, the belief that you are a good husband, and the realization that your wife's fantasy shatters that image. The mind, to protect itself, begins to spin, to justify, to loop. The repetition becomes a defense mechanism, not to discover the truth, but to delay its impact. Kubrick knew this. In his notes on the script, he reportedly wrote, "The real horror is not what is hidden, it's what is ignored." And repetition, when done with enough elegance, becomes invisible. The audience begins to feel it, even if they don't recognize it. The same musical phrases return, especially the piano motif that plays like a broken spell, the same camera angles, the same wide shots of isolation. The viewer is caught in the same loop as Bill, a shared hallucination of motion without movement. This is why so many critics initially misunderstood the film. They expected escalation, a build toward revelation, but Kubrick understood that trauma doesn't escalate. It echoes, it revisits, and in that repetition, meaning starts to warp, just as a word loses its sense when repeated aloud too many times. Bill's world begins to unmake itself. He sees things not as they are, but as he needs them to be, or fears they are. One scene, often overlooked, encapsulates this beautifully. Bill returns to Domino's apartment after a night of guilt. He wants to check in to play the part of the caring man, but she is not there. A new woman opens the door. Their conversation is calm, yet surreal. The apartment is the same, the energy completely altered, and the mirror in the background captures both faces in a strange alignment. They speak, but not to each other. They smile, but emptily. It's not just a repetition, it's a degraded copy of a previous moment, a broken echo. In psychoanalysis, repetition compulsion is the unconscious drive to repeat past trauma in new forms. Freud believed it was the psyche's way of trying to resolve unresolved experiences, but in Eyes Wide Shut, Kubrick offers a darker version, repetition not as healing, but as entrapment. To Bill is not resolving anything, he is reenacting, compulsively, the same failure to act, the same failure to understand. Even the structure of the film participates in this cycle. It begins and ends in the same apartment, the same couple, the same surface stability. Nothing has changed, except what they know. And that is the final cruelty. Knowledge once gained cannot be undone, but it also does not grant escape. It only sharpens the awareness that you are trapped. This concept echoes a theory from the philosopher Jean Baudrillard, who argued that in a postmodern world we live in simulations, endless copies without originals. Eyes Wide Shut becomes such a simulation. The masked ball is not the hidden world. It is a performance of a performance, just like the marriage, just like the profession. And Bill, moving through these layers, begins to experience everything twice, once in action, once in reflection. The film also uses mirrored repetition in gestures. Bill constantly puts down and picks up objects, a phone, a wallet, a key. He steps into elevators and pauses. He speaks to people who are almost always seated or framed in doorways. Thresholds. Each of these patterns builds an invisible cage around him. He never runs. He never shouts. He never breaks the frame. He moves like a man, reciting steps from a dance he no longer remembers learning. In production design, the repetition becomes uncanny. Lamps are symmetrically placed in almost every room. Furniture layouts echo previous scenes. Even the streets look the same. This is partly because many of them are the same, recreated on sound stages in England to mimic Manhattan. But more than that, it's a comment on artificiality. The loop isn't accidental, it's manufactured. Reality in this film is not a place, it's a set, and within that set, the mirrors become less reflective and more symbolic. They stop showing what is, they begin showing what is missing. Bill's reflection at times doesn't match his movements. Sometimes he is present in the glass before entering the room. Sometimes, as in the final store scene, the mirror is angled so that it shows no one, as if identity itself has slipped away. This slippage is the final stage of the cycle, not just denial of truth, but denial of self. Bill, by the end, is no longer seeking answers. He is sleepwalking through the aftermath. He tells Alice everything, but his voice is hollow, his words rehearsed. It is not catharsis, it is compliance. The dream, if it ever ended, has become his life, and the mask once worn only in the ritual now exists permanently in his gaze. In the final department store scene, bright and full of Christmas cheer, the mirrors reflect light, decorations, strangers passing by. But something feels wrong. Too polished, too perfect. This is not joy. It's a tableau, a frozen performance. And in this glossy, glowing loop, the only thing that cuts through is Alice's final word. A word that acknowledges both exhaustion and surrender. A word that, like the mirror, reflects more than it says. Because in this world, everything is repeated. The love, the lies, the fear. And the face that looks back from the mirror knows it. It has seen it all before. It begins with a single phrase, delivered with a casual smile that feels rehearsed. Would you like to go where the rainbow ends? The question seems innocent, even whimsical. But in the world of eyes wide shut, nothing is innocent, nothing is whimsical. And that one line, spoken by a masked seductress at a high society party, is a signal, a cipher, an invitation into the illusion. The rainbow, in most cultures, represents hope, unity, a covenant between heaven and earth. In religious texts, it is a divine promise. In alchemical tradition, it is the bridge between matter and spirit. In contemporary culture, it sells happiness, diversity, the magic of color. But Kubrick, as always, inverts expectation. In his world, the rainbow is not a bridge, it's a trap. It does not lead to transcendence. It leads to a costume shop called Rainbow Fashions. This is where the descent begins. Bill Harford follows that invitation, first figuratively, then literally, and finds himself in the garish interior of a store that smells of latex and secrecy. The rainbow, in this case, is not a celestial arc. It is plastic, fluorescent, a lure. Behind its curtains are not angels, but masked men with predatory grins, and a young girl who should not be there. The storekeeper, Mr. Millick, first outraged, later complicit, transforms before our eyes. One moment, protective, the next dismissive. Transactions are made, names are not spoken. The rainbow, once pursued, reveals not the sublime, but the profane. And here lies Kubrick's dark poetry. The rainbow is not the end of the journey. It is its beginning. A test, a false key that opens the wrong door. The childlike wonder it promises masks a system of manipulation. Each color, once symbolic of harmony, is used to compartmentalize the experience. Red for seduction, blue for control, green for decay, violet for transformation. The spectrum becomes a code, a path that spirals not upward, but inward, into something primal, ancient, hidden. There is a long tradition of esoteric thought that speaks of the false light. In Gnostic teachings, the material world is ruled by archons, beings who mimic divinity, but are born of illusion. They offer transcendence, but deliver enslavement. They promise sight, but blind. In Eyes Wide Shut, the rainbow is this false light. It dazzles, it distracts, but it never delivers. It is the bait of those who control the ritual, those who remain unseen. The costume shop is no accident. Costumes are personas, masks for the mundane world. And at Rainbow Fashions, these are not sold, they are assigned. Bill asks for a cloak and a mask, and he receives exactly what he needs to enter the next stage of his journey. But the question lingers, was it by chance, or by design? Did he choose the mask, or was it waiting for him? The rainbow suggests free will. The store underneath it removes it. This manipulation of symbol is central to Kubrick's message. The rainbow appears subtly throughout the film, in Christmas lights, in reflective surfaces, in the saturation of color that borders on surreal. We are told we are in New York, but the city is too clean, too symmetrical, like a diorama, a set, a stage under an artificial sky. The rainbow here is not painted by rain and light. It is manufactured, like the desire it represents. Psychologists have long studied the power of color in controlling perception. In a 1990 study by Andrew Elliott, researchers found that exposure to certain colors could influence behavior. Red heightened arousal, blue increased calm, green promoted passivity. Marketers use these insights with precision. Fast food chains use red and yellow to create urgency. Hospitals use blue to convey trust. The rainbow becomes not a symbol, but a tool, and in the hands of those who orchestrate reality, tools become weapons. When Bill enters the mansion, under the guise of anonymity, the rainbow follows him. The colors of the interiors are saturated, golds, purples, deep crimsons. The sequence is bathed in an otherworldly glow. But this is not heaven, it is theater. The women, cloaked in black, but lit like stained glass, are not priestesses, they are props. The ceremony mimics sacredness, but it is hollow. And yet, the illusion is maintained through spectacle, through color, through the precise manipulation of sensory input. This is the true function of the rainbow in the film. It is not merely deception, it is calibration. By offering an illusion of choice, it narrows the path. You think you are ascending. In reality, you are walking deeper into the maze. Bill believes he is uncovering truth, but each revelation leads to greater confusion. He returns to the same places, he speaks to the same faces. The colors change, but the pattern repeats. Like light refracted through glass, his journey bends, curves, loops. The rainbow's endpoint is always just ahead, never where you stand. It becomes the horizon of desire, and desire, in the film, is never fulfilled. It is promised, delayed, redirected. Even Alice's dream, where she describes an ecstatic betrayal, follows this logic. It was not real, but it felt more real than her marriage. The rainbow of fantasy, more vivid than the grayscale of domestic life. There is another layer to this deception. The rainbow, in many spiritual traditions, is associated with the chakra system, a ladder of energetic centers, ascending from base instincts to divine consciousness. Each chakra has a color, a lesson, a trial, but in Eyes Wide Shut, the ladder is reversed. Instead of ascending, Bill descends, from crown to root, from reason to impulse, from clarity to chaos. Each step lit in neon, each choice framed in color. Kubrick does not condemn this. He does not suggest purity is possible. Instead, he reveals that the system is rigged, that the rainbow is not a bridge, but a circle, and those who follow it without question will return to the beginning, unaware that they've moved at all. Bill wakes from his journey changed, but unchanged, enlightened, but powerless. He has seen behind the curtain, and the curtain is made of color. One final moment cements this idea. In the toy store, at the film's end, Bill and Alice walk hand in hand through aisles of bright plastic. The shelves are bursting with color, dolls with fixed smiles, masks for children, tiny costumes. This is the next generation's rainbow fashions. The illusion begins early. The training starts young. Even their daughter, Helena, disappears momentarily behind a shelf, just out of sight. And for a second, the audience feels it. The chill, the possibility that the pattern is already repeating. Kubrick cuts the film here, not with resolution, but with implication. The rainbow ends not in gold, not in light, but in transaction, in play acting, in another mask, another loop. And this time, the illusion is stronger, because we recognize it, and still participate. The rainbow promised transcendence, but its brilliance was manufactured, and its glow, as we now understand, was never meant to guide, only to blind. There is no chaos in Eyes Wide Shut, not truly. Every movement, every word, every glance is orchestrated with such precision that it becomes impossible to believe in coincidence. What appears to be a story of unraveling, of a man drifting through desire and mystery, is in truth the slow revelation of a structure, a hidden lattice beneath the surface of society, where everything is categorized, arranged, ruled. This is the secret heart of the film, hierarchy. not as an abstraction, but as a lived, ritualized, totalizing system. The first place we see this unspoken order is not the mansion, it is Ziegler's party. The film begins not with a whisper of darkness, but with chandeliers, jazz and champagne. Yet even here, the rules are already in place. The wealthy glide across the polished floors, while the servers remain on the edges. Bill and Alice are welcomed, yes, but they are guests, not equals. When Ziegler asks for Bill's help in a private emergency upstairs, the difference becomes obvious. It is not a request, it is a command, framed in civility. And what is the emergency? A naked woman, overdosed, sprawled in Ziegler's private bathroom. The doctor is there to fix it, not to question. And the woman, Mandy, is not treated as a person. She is spoken about as a liability. Her identity, her suffering, irrelevant. Already, the structure asserts itself. The rules are protect the host, conceal the scandal, erase the details. It is not said out loud. It does not need to be. Later, when Bill asks Ziegler about the ritual, the older man's tone shifts. Warmth becomes warning. If you knew who those people were, you wouldn't sleep so well. The line is devastating. In its simplicity, it reveals not only Ziegler's power, but his position in the hierarchy. He is not at the top. He answers to others, but he enforces the rules with clarity and calm. There is no violence, only certainty, and that is far more terrifying. At the mansion, the structure becomes visual, bodies arranged in a circle, masks color-coded, movements synchronized. The master of ceremonies stands at the center, raised, above. His voice, deep, deliberate, echoes like a divine pronouncement. When Bill is discovered, the punishment is not immediate, it is ceremonial. The women part, the music fades. Eyes turn, the master does not shout, he simply gestures, and the circle closes in. This geometry of submission is not accidental. Kubrick, a known admirer of military discipline and chess logic, constructs every frame as a diagram of power. High angles dominate the helpless. Symmetrical corridors swallow characters. Even the mise-en-scène, chairs, candles, curtains, are placed with hypnotic symmetry. It is the architecture of obedience, not through force, but form. Real-world parallels abound. Esoteric orders throughout history have relied on ritual structure to enforce hierarchy. From the Eleusinian mysteries of ancient Greece to the Masonic lodges of Enlightenment Europe, power was codified through levels, oaths, and symbols. The lower initiates were shown fragments. The higher levels were granted access, but even they never saw the whole. This compartmentalization, this fractal control is replicated perfectly in Eyes Wide Shut. Bill sees, but only what he is meant to see. The phrase "you are way out of your depth" is uttered more than once in the film. It is not a figure of speech. It is a verdict. Bill does not understand the structure he has wandered into. He believes that because he wears the costume, he belongs. But belonging is not visual, it is hierarchical. The mask grants access, not privilege. The ritual is not democratic, it is stratified, and those who do not know their place become liabilities. Even in the seemingly informal spaces, hierarchy persists. The costume shop, the bar, the hospital, everyone plays a role. The piano player, Nick Nightingale, seems free until he disappears. The prostitute Domino is cheerful until she vanishes. The girl at the party is grateful until she ends up dead. Their fates are not random. They are controlled, watched, managed. The system decides who gets to return and who gets erased. And that system is everywhere, in the decor, in the silence, in the fact that no one ever truly panics. Fear in the film is not expressed through screams. It is expressed through restraint, through faces that say too little, through pauses that last just a second too long. Power here is not loud, it is still, cold, certain. One of the most striking examples of hidden hierarchy comes when Bill tries to retrace his steps. He returns to the mansion during daylight. The house is empty, but a man, an unnamed, smiling servant, appears at the gate. He already knows Bill's name. He has been expected. He offers nothing but politeness, and yet, the threat is clear. Bill is not anonymous. He never was. The ritual did not end. It merely shifted form. This moment reveals the most terrifying truth. Hierarchy is not confined to the mansion. It extends into every space, every smile, every locked door. Bill believed he was chasing secrets, but the real secret is that there are no secrets, only permissions. Those at the top do not hide what they do. They simply restrict access to it, and the rest pretend not to see. Kubrick's manipulation of detail enhances this message. The color red marks control. The color gold marks status. The entrances are always guarded. The masks, Venetian in style, originate from carnivals that inverted social roles, but only temporarily. Beneath each layer of pageantry is a rigid control. Even the orgy itself, chaotic on the surface, is revealed to be choreographed. Every gesture approved, every silence measured. In 1995, a leaked document from a European private club described similar levels of coded access during elite gatherings. Color-coded invitations, monitored movements, designated observers. Whether Kubrick based his sequence on these reports or not is irrelevant. What matters is how accurately he captures the psychology of institutional dominance. It does not require chains. It requires choreography, predictability, ritual, and submission is part of the contract. Voluntary, almost joyful. The masked women at the ritual do not resist. They glide, they kneel, they offer, but their submission is not erotic. It is symbolic. It reinforces the architecture. Even the one who saves Bill does so in ritual terms. She steps forward. She recites. She accepts the consequence. Her act is not rebellion. It is sacrifice. A role within the order. The hierarchy consumes even its descent. Bill at the end does not escape. He returns home. He confesses. And Alice does not cry. She listens. She nods. She answers with a word that closes the loop. The family is intact, but now informed. Their love persists, but now with awareness. The power structure has not been broken. It has been internalized. This is the brilliance of Kubrick's vision. He does not create villains. He creates architecture. The enemy is not a man in a mask. It is the system that made the mask necessary. The ritual was a revelation, not of something hidden, but of something omnipresent, everywhere, polite, controlled, ritualized, and we, the viewers, are not immune. We sit in the theater, we watch the screen, we follow the narrative as instructed, we accept the hierarchy of the frame, the composition, the lighting, the sound. We are participants in the ceremony. The only difference is that we are not asked to wear masks. We wear our faces instead, but the structure does not care what you wear, only that you remain in your place. The moment you hear it, something shifts. It's not just sound, it's presence. A low, echoing chant, syllables torn from an ancient prayer and twisted into something that feels both sacred and profane. It does not rise, it spirals. It does not comfort, it unsettles. The music that fills the ritual scene in Eyes Wide Shut is not a score. It is a conjuration, a sonic veil, thick and weightless, draped over the ceremony like incense smoke that never dissipates. And once it enters your ears, it never fully leaves. Stanley Kubrick was obsessive about sound. In every film he ever made, music wasn't background, it was architecture. In 2001, A Space Odyssey, it became space itself. In The Shining, it tore the mind into fractals, and in Eyes Wide Shut, it enters the bloodstream. The piece, Masked Ball, by Jocelyn Pook, is built upon a Romanian Orthodox liturgical chant known as Litany of the Saints. But Kubrick made one fundamental change. He reversed it. Every syllable, every breath, is played backward. The result is not music. It is invocation. The reverse chant pulses through the ritual scene like an invisible serpent, It wraps around the figures in cloaks. It seeps into the velvet walls. It is not heard so much as inhaled. It fills the air with a texture of something remembered, an echo of sanctity now corrupted. Sacred music, by design, is meant to elevate, to reach toward the divine, to open the listener to transcendence. But played backward, it does not descend. It drags, it pulls downward, it subverts its own origin, transforming praise into lament, ascension into descent. In ritual magic, reversing language is not new. The practice dates back to ancient Babylonian curse tablets, where names and prayers were spoken backward to undo blessings. In the grimoires of the Renaissance, inversion was a key component of banishment and blasphemy alike. The symbol of the inverted cross, the reversed pentagram, all speak to the same logic: desecrate the form to gain power over it. Reversal is not mere rebellion, it is reprogramming. Kubrick's decision to use an inverted Orthodox chant in this context is not random. The Romanian Orthodox Church is one of the oldest liturgical traditions in Europe. Its chants are hauntingly beautiful, deeply mystical, woven into the very language of the divine. By reversing this specific sacred form, Kubrick takes something holy and makes it unrecognizable. But more importantly, he uses it to signal that the ritual is not chaotic, it is anti-holy, it is structured inversion. There is an eerie duality at play. The ceremony itself appears reverent. The robes, the incense, the procession, all suggest a kind of worship. But of what? The high priest does not pray, he declares. The women do not kneel, they are offered. The audience does not sing, they watch in silence. Everything that once was sacred is here again, but in reverse, like a cathedral built underground, where every pillar casts a shadow, longer than the structure itself. The chant intensifies this. It transforms the scene into a liturgy of flesh, but not one of violence, of order. The reversed syllables echo in perfect rhythm with the ritual's choreography. Every step is in sync. Every pause lines up with the rise and fall of this unholy psalm. The sacred is not absent, it is inverted, and that inversion demands obedience, not ecstasy. Musicologist and ritual theorist John Zorn once noted that reversed sound in liturgical space creates a sense of spiritual violation that is oddly soothing. That is exactly the paradox Kubrick conjures here. The music is wrong, and yet the body surrenders to it. It compels, it lowers defenses, it tells the subconscious, you are no longer in control, you are being rewritten. This technique is not just cinematic, it's neurological. Studies in auditory perception have shown that the human brain reacts strongly to reversed speech. In 1983, a group of cognitive scientists at the University of Illinois discovered that reversed human vocalizations triggered subconscious anxiety responses in test subjects, even when they couldn't identify what they were hearing. The human ear detects intention, and when the intention is broken, when the natural flow of sound is violated, the body responds with unease, fight or flight. But in Eyes Wide Shut, Kubrick does not let you flee, he suspends you in it. The effect is cumulative. The chant plays during the most visually stylized sequence of the film. You are overwhelmed by symmetry, color, masks, but it is the sound that binds it together. Without it, the scene would be erotic. With it, it becomes sacred terror, the kind of fear that has nothing to do with death, and everything to do with recognition. Recognition of something you were never meant to see, something you've seen before but only in dreams. There's a detail most viewers miss. The chant ends the moment Bill is confronted. The music ceases not with violence, but with transition. The spell breaks. Silence reclaims the space, and that silence speaks louder than anything else. It tells you the ritual has shifted focus. You are now part of it. Kubrick's manipulation of sacred sound is mirrored in his broader manipulation of spiritual language. The film is filled with religious cues, Christmas lights that mimic halos, processions that echo church ceremonies, prayers recited as dialogue, but each is hollowed out, drained of meaning. Like the chant, they remain in form only. The function has changed. They no longer connect to the divine. They are tools for control. In this sense, the reversed chant is not background music. It is the ritual. The spoken language of the scene is minimal. The communication happens through sound, through vibration, through atmosphere. This aligns with certain occult beliefs, that sound itself is a carrier of magical intent, that the universe began not with light, but with word, vibration, and if you can corrupt the vibration, you can rewrite the world. Kubrick understood this. He once remarked in an interview that music was the quickest path to the soul, without needing to pass through the intellect, and in Eyes Wide Shut, he bypasses intellect entirely. The music enters your subconscious before your brain has time to form defenses. The reversed chant is a virus coded in liturgy, a sacred form twisted into subjugation, and still it is beautiful. That is what makes it most disturbing. The chant does not scream. It does not disturb with dissonance. It lulls. It comforts. It feels familiar, and that familiarity disarms. It creates space for the ritual to work. Like a lullaby sung in a language you don't remember but somehow understand. By the time the ritual ends, the music no longer plays, but its echo remains. In the pacing of Bill's footsteps, in the way conversations stutter, in the silence between words, it is as if the chant has rearranged the rhythm of the world, as if time itself now follows a different cadence, one that cannot be heard, only felt, like a dream you carry long after waking. Eyes Wide Shut does not use music to enhance, it uses it to infect. The reversed chant is not decoration, it is programming. It trains the viewer to listen differently, to expect inversion, to fear the familiar. It is the sonic equivalent of looking into a mirror and seeing yourself blink before you do. And when the film is over, the music does not leave you, it stays. It hums beneath other sounds. It changes the way you hear Gregorian chants. It rewrites your memory of sacred music. You begin to wonder how much of what you believed was holy was simply structured that way. How many of the rituals we trust are just performances that never stopped. The chant is no longer playing, but it's still inside.
He was never invited. Not truly. He was summoned, not by name, but by suggestion, by curiosity, by the invisible pull of a world that had already noticed him long before he stepped through the first door. Bill Harford is not a hero in Eyes Wide Shut. He is not an explorer or a rebel or even a man seeking truth. He is a guest, and guests do not write the rules. They follow them or suffer the consequences. From the beginning, Bill moves through the film with the illusion of autonomy. He makes choices, asks questions, follows leads, but each movement feels preordained, as if the world itself bends gently to guide him where he needs to go, into the trap. This is no accident. Kubrick constructs the narrative not as a linear path, but as a spiral, and Bill walks it unknowingly, believing he is acting when he is in fact being acted upon. His journey begins with a confession. Alice's dream, the naval officer, the one night of fantasy, stronger than a lifetime of fidelity, breaks the illusion of safety, but it does more than that. It opens a door, not just in their marriage, but in Bill's mind, a door that cannot be closed once opened. He steps into the night, looking for comfort, for vengeance, for understanding, but what he finds, instead, is an invitation, not extended, but implied. Nick Nightingale, the piano player, is the first sign, a friend from the past, appearing at just the right moment. Nick offers not information, but a riddle, a gig, a location, a warning wrapped in laughter, and Bill accepts the bait, not knowing that this decision places him on a board he cannot see. He thinks he is attending a performance. He does not realize he is stepping into a system. At the costume shop, another piece falls into place. Mr. Millick, The peculiar proprietor does not question the request for a cloak and a mask. He offers them with eagerness. The exchange is swift. The price is never discussed. And in the back room, veiled behind velvet and shadow, something unspeakable is happening. But Bill looks away. He doesn't question. He accepts the costume, as if it were part of a prearranged role waiting for him. The mansion appears suddenly. No address, no signage, just a gate, a driver, and a code. Bill repeats the phrase, Fidelio, and is allowed entry. The word itself, Latin, for faithfulness, is bitterly ironic. It is the key to betrayal. It unlocks the ritual, but it also seals Bill's fate. He enters not as an equal, but as an intruder wearing borrowed skin, and everyone inside knows it. The ritual is a cathedral of silence, cloaked figures, choreographed movements, a master of ceremonies, whose words are spells. Bill walks among them, unnoticed only because he is tolerated, not welcome, tolerated. The mask hides his face, but not his ignorance. He does not know the rules. He does not speak the language. And so when he is finally summoned to the center, stripped of pretense, there is no surprise. He has violated the code by not knowing it. The woman who offers herself in his place, a sacrifice, a substitution, does not do so impulsively. She follows a logic Bill cannot comprehend. She is part of the structure, a piece on the board. She plays her role perfectly. He, by contrast, stumbles, hesitates, pleads, a guest caught in a play, whose script he never learned, and this is his crime, not desire, not curiosity, but ignorance. After the ritual, everything changes, not immediately. Slowly, like water rising beneath a locked door, Bill returns to familiar spaces, but they feel altered. People look at him differently. Conversations trail off at his approach. Doors close more quickly. He is still walking through the same world, but now it watches him. The game has not ended. It has only changed shape. Kubrick amplifies this with visual cues. Bill is often filmed from behind glass, or through narrow corridors. He is boxed in, observed, studied. At one point he visits Nick's hotel, only to be told, calmly, cryptically, that his friend has checked out. The concierge smiles, but the subtext is sharp. Bill is being managed, moved, shifted from place to place, like a pawn, and that's what he is now, a piece in motion, not powerful, not dangerous, but aware, and awareness is the first step toward control, or destruction. Ziegler confirms this in the film's most chilling conversation. In a room drenched in soft light and hollow civility, he tells Bill the truth, or at least part of it. Yes, it was real. Yes, they knew who he was, and yes, they let him leave. The implication is clear. They could have stopped him at any moment. They chose not to, because the real punishment is not death, it's knowledge. A knowledge that brings no empowerment, only limitation. Bill is told not to speak, not to investigate, not to question, and he obeys, because now he understands. He is a guest in a house with infinite rooms, most of which he will never see. This is not just social commentary, it is psychological architecture. Kubrick constructs a world where power is invisible, yet absolute, where rules are enforced through suggestion, not command, where the most dangerous people never raise their voice. They do not need to. The structure itself does the work for them. In 1984, sociologist Michel Foucault wrote about panopticism, the idea that constant visibility ensures compliance. You behave because you might be watched. Eyes wide shut takes this further. You behave because you've glimpsed the watchers, and once you've seen them, they don't need to act. You will act for them. Bill's descent is not physical, it is symbolic. He does not fall down a rabbit hole. He walks through doorways, takes taxis, pays for coffee, but each step takes him deeper into a web designed to look like ordinary life. He was never meant to reach the center, but now that he has, he must return to the edge and pretend he never left, and he does. In the film's final act, Bill confesses, not as an act of rebellion, but as surrender. He tells Alice everything, and she listens. No screaming, no accusation, just a quiet acknowledgement of what they both now know. The illusion is broken, the house still stands, and yet there is one more layer to Bill's status as a guest. He is not just a guest in the ritual, he is a guest in his own life. He walks through spaces, his office, his home, his marriage, with the same uncertain steps he used in the mansion. The difference is gone. Everywhere is part of the game, every relationship a performance, every truth provisional. Kubrick leaves us here, not with closure, with awareness. The awareness that the structures of power, desire, and secrecy are not separate realms, they are nested, interwoven. The ritual was not a deviation, it was a mirror, and Bill, he is still in costume, he just no longer remembers how to take it off.
Bill Harford never expected to descend. He believed himself stable, composed, in control, a doctor, a husband, a man of science in a rational world. But like all initiations, his begins with disruption, not a cataclysm, a whisper, a glance, a dream. Alice's confession is not an act of betrayal, it is a tearing of the veil. One moment, she is his wife. The next, she becomes his initiator. In a single breath, she speaks a fantasy so raw, so destabilizing, it breaks the illusion of safety forever. Bill is not betrayed by her fidelity, he is betrayed by his own ignorance. The world he thought he understood, the world of clean roles and clear rules, is gone, and so, like the neophyte of ancient rites, he stumbles into the night, disoriented and stripped of certainty. The first step in initiation is separation from the familiar. In tribal rites, the initiate is removed from the village. In Eyes Wide Shut, Bill is removed from the comfort of knowing. He enters the liminal space, the in-between. His descent is marked by stages. First, the wandering. He walks through streets lit with artificial joy, Christmas lights that glow too warmly, too falsely. Every storefront reflects desire, but he does not enter. He observes. Women offer him something he can't name. Temptations arrive, then vanish. Each encounter feels rehearsed, ritualistic, as though the world itself has conspired to test him. And in a sense, it has. The costume shop is his first gate. Rainbow fashions, the name itself, a coded promise of transcendence. The rainbow has long symbolized the bridge between human and divine, the arc between death and rebirth. But here it is plastic, neon, commodified. His cloak and mask are not spiritual tools. They are purchased illusions, yet he accepts them, and the role they entail. The initiate must wear the vestments, even if they do not yet understand their weight. Then the second gate, the mansion, the ritual, the sacred space of inversion. Everything here mimics holiness, but is drenched in power and secrecy. Women processed like sacraments, incense not of worship, but of anesthesia, the reverse chant, a liturgy unspoken. Bill does not belong, but he is allowed in. The gatekeepers watch him. They always did. This is the ordeal. In initiation, the ordeal is the test of the soul, the confrontation with fear, ego, death. In Egyptian mysteries, it was a journey through the underworld. In shamanic tradition, it was dismemberment and return. For Bill, it is the slow realization that he is not the observer, he is the observed. His presence in the ritual is tolerated, not welcomed. He is not the hero, he is the offering. When the masked woman offers herself in his place, it is not kindness, it is design. She plays her part in the drama, perfectly timed. Bill is spared, but not saved. He leaves not because he passes the test, but because the ritual has moved on. And this is the true horror. The initiate believes they seek truth, but the truth does not liberate, it binds.
What Bill sees, he cannot unsee. His life, his status, his marriage, his pride, is revealed as theater. And now he returns to it as a man changed, but powerless to speak. In classical rites, after the ordeal comes the return. The initiate re-emerges from the darkness, bearing wisdom. But in modern life, there is no celebration, no recognition, only silence. Bill speaks to no one who truly listens. Nick has vanished, Domino is gone, the masked woman is dead, or perhaps not. There are no confirmations, only warnings. Ziegler becomes the false hierophant, the guardian of the threshold who offers not enlightenment, but suppression. He tells Bill to forget, to pretend, that what he saw was just theater. But Bill knows better. The dead eyes behind the masks, the precision, the silence. This was not fantasy. It was structure. This moment reflects the final trial of initiation. Doubt. The initiate is told to deny their experience, to return to ignorance. But the true initiation cannot be undone. Once the veil is torn, it cannot be mended. Bill no longer believes in the world he returns to. He moves through it with distance. He touches his old life, but no longer inhabits it. The descent has marked him. Kubrick's use of mythic structure supports this reading. The film aligns with Joseph Campbell's monomyth. The call to adventure, the crossing of the threshold, the belly of the whale, the transformation, and the return. But unlike traditional hero stories, Bill does not slay the dragon. He barely names it. He walks away not with a sword, but with silence. This silence is crucial. In the rites of Eleusis, initiates were forbidden from speaking of what they saw. It was not repression, it was reverence. To name the mystery was to kill it. But in Eyes Wide Shut, the silence is enforced not by all but by fear. Bill cannot speak because he knows what happens to those who do. The girl's body was found. Nick disappeared. The line is drawn not with words, but with consequences. And yet despite this, Bill has changed. The final scenes are quiet, domestic, even sweet, but the tension hums beneath. The daughter wanders into a toy store, a new initiate, perhaps. The parents speak gently, lovingly, but they do not lie to themselves anymore. When Alice speaks the final word, it is not erotic, it is ritualistic, a closing, a naming of what cannot be named. This journey is mirrored in psychology. Carl Jung described individuation as the process by which one integrates the unconscious into consciousness, by confronting the shadow. The parts of ourselves we repress, our fears, desires, lies. Bill has seen his shadow. It took the form of masks, rituals, dead women, desire, and humiliation. He did not conquer it, but he faced it. And that is enough. Initiation is not triumph, it is awakening. And awakening is painful, lonely, unseen by others. Kubrick does not celebrate it, he mourns it. The bright city, the Christmas cheer, the shopping mall, they are stage lights now. False suns in an artificial sky. And so Bill walks through his new life, like an actor, who remembers the script, but no longer believes in the play. His initiation was not a privilege, it was the price of opening his eyes.
There was no curse, no spell, no demon behind the curtain. The ritual was real, yes, but it did not create the danger, it revealed it. And the most terrifying truth of all, the truth Bill Harford cannot escape, even in the safety of his home, is this: the only force that ever truly threatened him came from within. He was not hunted, he wandered, he was not dragged into darkness, he followed it. The masked ritual was not a trap, it was a mirror, and what he saw reflected in it, beneath the velvet, behind the masks, beyond the slow-burning candles, was himself. It began the moment Alice told him about her dream, not the sex, the surrender, the ease with which she admitted she would have given up everything, husband, child, life, for one night with a stranger. She didn't do it, but she could have. That possibility, that infinite branching moment,
shattered Bill, not because she betrayed him, but because she revealed that she could, that she had the capacity to want something beyond him, to act outside of his domain, and that for Bill was unacceptable, because Bill was not in love with Alice. He was in love with the idea of control, of ownership. The perfect wife, the beautiful home, the title of doctor, a man who heals, who fixes, who knows. That was his mask, that was the story he told himself. But the moment she tore through that illusion, he was no longer the narrator of his life. He was the listener. Then the man he heard speaking was not someone he recognized. He did not respond with compassion, core vulnerability. He responded with possessiveness, disguised as curiosity. He walked into the night, not to understand her, but to restore himself, to prove he was still desirable, still dominant, still in charge. But every woman he met on that journey became a silent refutation. The prostitute who greeted him with softness, Domino, offered comfort, not power. He tried to buy her time, but the moment was not about money. It was about his desperation, and when he returned later, she was gone. Another door closed. The daughter of the costume shop owner, barely of age, offered him a glimpse of taboo, and he did nothing. He watched, complicit, silent. His jealousy toward Alice's fantasy had turned into silent permission. When the imbalance tilted in his favor, then came the ritual, where all masks are worn, and all power is exposed. But here again, Bill played a part he did not understand. He wanted to see, but not be seen, to know, but not be tested. He failed to recognize that the ritual did not judge him. It revealed him. His punishment was not exile. It was reflection, and so the mask followed him home. There is a moment, quiet and devastating, when Bill sits on his bed, mask in hand, face in shadow. He stares at the object, but what he sees is himself, the thing that allowed him to explore, to pretend, to wander unnoticed, now accuses him. It has returned to him, like a dog, with blood on its snout. It does not speak, it does not blink, it just waits. He was never a master. He was a trespasser, not into elite circles, but into the chambers of his own mind. The ritual was not a secret society. He was the projection of everything he refused to admit. His fear of female sexuality, his hunger for control, his quiet humiliation at realizing that his power, his title, his knowledge, his wealth meant nothing in the places that mattered. Kubrick knew this truth intimately. His films often focus not on external villains, but on the unraveling of self-deception. In The Shining, Jack Torrance is undone, not by ghosts, but by his refusal to confront his rage. In 2001, A Space Odyssey, the computer HAL is defeated by logic, because it cannot resolve its conflicting commands. In Eyes Wide Shut, Bill is defeated by his refusal to accept that the world is not built to flatter his ego. Psychologists call this phenomenon cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort that arises when one's beliefs clash with reality. But deeper than that is narcissistic injury, the psychic wound that occurs when the image we hold of ourselves is ruptured by truth. Bill suffers both, and like many men raised on quiet entitlement, he believes that the world will heal his wound. That somewhere out there is a woman, a mask, a ritual, a key that will restore the fantasy. He was wrong. The turning point is not loud. It comes in silence, when he returns home and sees Alice sleeping, the mask resting beside her, a reminder that his secret is not his alone, that what he did in the shadows lives in the light now, and that she knows, she always knew, because she too wore a mask, and her dream that night was not just a fantasy. It was her way of ripping the veil, of forcing him to see what he never allowed himself to face. That control is an illusion, that love without freedom is possession, that knowledge without honesty is just a form of blindness. Bill's real enemy was not the masked elite, or the high priest, or Ziegler, or the watchers in the dark. It was the man who believed he was above desire, who mistook jealousy for passion, who thought knowing the body gave him ownership of the soul. And so Kubrick's final cruelty is not punishment, it is permission. Bill is allowed to return, to hold his wife, to shop for toys, to smile in public, but everything is different now, not because he was changed by the world, but because he finally saw the world he built inside himself. In myth, the hero slays the dragon. In Eyes Wide Shut, the dragon is in the mirror, and it is still breathing.
The official version is simple. Stanley Kubrick died of a heart attack on March 7, 1999, just days after completing the final cut of Eyes Wide Shut. The timing was tragic. It was poetic. It was too perfect, because for those who watch more than films, those who study them like coded messages, like grimoires hidden in plain sight, Kubrick's death was not an end. It was a signal, a punctuation mark, not at the end of a sentence, but after a warning. The film was delivered. The truth was spoken, and the voice behind it was silenced. Kubrick, known for his perfectionism, had complete control over every frame of his work. He took years between projects. He demanded reshoots, rewrites, reconstructions. But Eyes Wide Shut came faster than expected. It was shot in secrecy. Its sets were locked. Its script was revised daily. And what emerged was a film that didn't just explore eroticism or marriage. It wandered into forbidden temples. It looked behind the curtain. It showed the architecture of real power. And then he died. The conspiracy begins not with his death, but with the nature of his final film. Eyes Wide Shut is saturated with symbols, rituals, masks, inverted liturgies, social hierarchies operating outside the view of the law. The elite are not caricatures. They are silent, efficient, untouchable. Kubrick does not depict a fantasy. He depicts a structure, and those who recognize that structure in the real world began to wonder, had he gone too far? The first strange detail, Kubrick's death, came 4 days after presenting the final cut to Warner Brothers executives. Just 4 days. Those who saw it said he was ecstatic, relieved, finally at peace. He had delivered what he called his masterpiece, but the version that was ultimately released to the public some months after his death was not what he had shown them. Eyes Wide Shut was altered, subtly, but altered. Most famously, the orgy scene at the mansion was digitally censored. Computer-generated figures were inserted into the frame, blocking the view of sexual acts. Warner Brothers claimed this was to avoid an NC-17 rating. But Kubrick had never allowed posthumous edits to his films. He had fought censors before, and won. Why would he agree now, especially for a film that so deliberately presented sexuality as ritual? Friends and collaborators have said Kubrick would have been furious with the changes. Others remained silent. And silence, in Kubrick's world, is never empty. Then came the whispers. People began to re-watch the film, not as story, but as testimony. Bill's journey wasn't fictional. It was metaphorical. A man enters a world he does not understand. He sees the mechanics of control, and he is warned, gently but firmly, to leave. Kubrick, they said, was not just making a film. He was speaking, and he paid the price. Conspiracy theorists latched onto the timeline. Kubrick had met with Warner Brothers executives in the days before his death. He had long been regarded as difficult, secretive, brilliant. Some said paranoid, others said prophetic. Was it possible that Eyes Wide Shut had exposed too much, that its depiction of ritualized power mirrored real-world practices too closely? It wouldn't be the first time he'd raised eyebrows. Decades earlier, Kubrick had been accused of embedding esoteric messages in his work. In The Shining,
Conspiracy theorists saw hidden confessions of faked moon landings, subliminal Holocaust imagery, even Native American genocide. Kubrick never commented. He let the speculation swirl. He understood the power of ambiguity. But Eyes Wide Shut was different. Here the codes weren't hidden, they were frontal. Masks, hierarchies, silence, sex as transaction, control as art. The high priests of the ritual never blink. They don't seduce, they command. And the protagonist, a man of wealth and intelligence, can do nothing. He is not resisted. He is dismissed. In the years following Kubrick's death, insiders offered cryptic comments. His widow, Christiane Kubrick, defended the film fiercely. She said he considered it his most important work, that it was about the masks we all wear. But she also hinted that there were things he left unsaid, that he never explained the full scope. And maybe he couldn't. One of the darkest claims comes from journalist and author Jay Weidner, who argued that Eyes Wide Shut was Kubrick's confession. Weidner believed Kubrick had assisted in staging the Apollo 11 moon landing footage, and that his reward was unlimited creative control for the rest of his career. In return, he stayed silent until Eyes Wide Shut. In that reading, the film is not about marriage or desire. It's about initiation, deception, hidden elites. The rituals are real, he said. The architecture is real. The warning is real. And Kubrick, finally breaking his silence, paid the price for speaking too plainly. But these theories rest on suggestion, not proof. Still, the coincidences accumulate. The name Fidelio, the password to the ritual in the film, is the title of Beethoven's only opera, about a woman who infiltrates a secret prison to free her husband. A tale of masks, imprisonment, and escape. It is also a code word used in military and Masonic contexts. Kubrick was a known reader of occult texts. His library contained books on the Rosicrucians, secret societies, initiation rites, and comparative religion. He was meticulous. If a symbol appears in his film, it is there for a reason, and Eyes Wide Shut is full of them.
What if Eyes Wide Shut wasn't just a story about a man lost in desire? What if it wasn't only about secret societies or sexual ritual? What if, beneath all the velvet, the masks, and the chants, Stanley Kubrick was revealing something far more unsettling, something institutional, state-sanctioned, and real? The symbols are all there. Fragmented identity, induced dissociation, sexual trauma as a tool of control, rigid hierarchy enforced through obedience and fear, and most tellingly, blank-eyed participants moving through ritual with no memory, no voice, no choice. For many theorists and researchers, these are not just aesthetic choices, they are cues, and what they point to is something that history has already confirmed. MK Ultra. Between the 1950s and 1970s, the CIA conducted a series of covert experiments under the codename MK Ultra. These operations aimed to explore methods of mind control using drugs, hypnosis, isolation, sexual coercion, and psychological trauma to fragment personalities and implant suggestions. The goal: to create programmable individuals, perfect spies, unwitting assassins, silent couriers, slaves who wouldn't know they were slaves. These programs were real. Declassified documents confirm them. Victims have testified, and the methods used bear chilling resemblance to what we see in Eyes Wide Shut. The mansion sequence is not just a sexual orgy, it's an initiation, a psychological trigger. Participants are masked, de-identified, and stripped of agency. They move in unison, obey unspoken commands, and perform acts that may later be erased from memory. This process of depersonalization, followed by trauma and suggestion, is classic MK Ultra methodology. Survivors of the program, such as Kathy O'Brien, have detailed accounts of high-level figures
participating in occult-like ceremonies involving masked gatherings, sexual abuse, and mental conditioning. In her memoir Transformation of America, she describes rituals eerily similar to the ones Kubrick filmed, complete with phrases like the right to remain silent, taking on dark double meanings. Kubrick, a known obsessive researcher, was no stranger to deep politics. He studied psychology, warfare, propaganda, and symbolism. His previous works were saturated with critiques of military structures, paths of glory, bureaucratic insanity, Dr. Strangelove, and behavioral control. A Clockwork Orange, but Eyes Wide Shut took a darker turn, a more dangerous one. The use of mirrors throughout the film isn't just visual elegance. It reflects the MK Ultra practice of mirror splitting, where victims are trained to develop alternate personalities, often referred to as alters, that are used to compartmentalize trauma. The constant reflection of characters, especially Bill and Alice, suggests fractured selves. Even Alice's sexual dream, told in vivid detail, could be interpreted as a planted memory, something she herself can't quite distinguish from reality. Then there's the figure of the woman who saves Bill. She emerges out of nowhere. Her voice is flat, rehearsed. Her decision to sacrifice herself lacks emotion, but not ritual precision. Who is she? We are never told. Theories suggest she may be a victim of mind control herself, used to perform a task, then discarded to sudden death. Later in the film, blamed on overdose, follows a familiar narrative, seen with real-world whistleblowers and trafficked assets. Silence through disappearance. Let us not ignore the children. Throughout the film, children are present, often in the background, just out of focus. Alice and Bill's daughter, Helena, wanders off in the final scene, drawn to a toy store filled with masks and costumes. Some viewers interpret this as symbolic programming, the child being guided into the next cycle. The rainbow imagery, linked to rainbow fashions, becomes an unsettling nod to the alleged use of rainbow-themed symbols in programming children within certain mind control networks. Is it coincidence? The same rainbow term has surfaced in numerous survivor testimonies involving monarch mind control, a supposed sub-program of MK Ultra that focused on creating dissociative states in children through trauma. According to researchers like Fritz Springmeier and John DeCamp, symbolism in these rituals often includes butterflies, mirrors, dolls, and yes, rainbows. In Eyes Wide Shut, the rainbow leads to the costume shop, the costume leads to the ritual leads to exposure, and exposure leads to death. This chain of events plays out with cold precision. Bill does not solve anything. He is walked through an experience. He sees what he's meant to see, and when it's over, he is warned, kindly, firmly, efficiently. Ziegler's role in the film further supports the allegory. He is a handler, a high-level figure, with access to both the elite and the disposable. He cleans up messes, he offers half-truths, he discourages inquiry, and he does it all with a smile. He tells Bill the woman is fine, then tells him she's dead, then tells him to forget. The gaslighting is surgical, the message is clear. This is not your world, and you were never meant to see it. Even the pacing of the film reflects hypnotic suggestion, long pauses, repetitive dialogue, dreamlike sequences. Masks and mirrors are not props. In Eyes Wide Shut, they are the architecture. They do not merely support the narrative, they are the narrative. And as the final frames fade, what remains is not a memory of plot or dialogue, but the lingering sensation of being watched by your own reflection from behind a mask you didn't know you were wearing. Kubrick's film does not end at Somerton, nor in the bedroom, nor in the toy store. It ends with a question implied, but never spoken. What if the ritual never stopped? What if the true ceremony is life itself? The offices, the stores, the schools, the dinner tables, and all of us are masked participants, repeating lines we never wrote. This is not metaphor, it is sociology. Modern society thrives on appearance. The persona, as Carl Jung described it, is the social mask we present to the world, tailored for acceptance, sanitized for consumption. But Jung also warned, the more we identify with the mask, the more we forget the face beneath it. In a world saturated by curated identities, online profiles, staged interactions, performance masquerading as personality, the danger is not that we lie to others, it is that we forget we're lying to ourselves. Eyes Wide Shut strips this illusion bare. Bill Harford wears a literal mask for one night, but symbolically, he wears it long before. In his posture as a doctor, in his scripted conversations, in his condescending calm, when his wife dares to express a sexual fantasy, the mask for him is not porcelain, it is pride, it is patriarchy, it is the belief in control over vulnerability. Mirrors, on the other hand, are the only truthful characters in the film. They reflect without judgment, but not without consequence. They do not offer escape. They offer confrontation. In every scene where a character faces a mirror, a truth is revealed, not through speech, but through silence. Alice staring into her own eyes as she confesses her dream. Bill watching his fractured reflection as he spirals deeper into denial. The mirrors do not accuse, they remember. This duality, mask as illusion, mirror as revelation, maps perfectly onto our world. Social media is the mask, surveillance is the mirror. We construct idealized versions of ourselves, filtered, performative, untouchable, while being watched by algorithms that do not sleep. And the more we hide behind appearances, the more those appearances become cages, not because someone locked us in, but because we chose them for safety, for status, for the fantasy of control. Kubrick anticipated this cultural shift. In 1999, the internet was just emerging as a tool of global identity construction. Today, it defines our interactions, influences our avatars, corporations, market authenticity. As aesthetic, every platform is a masked ball, every scroll, a new mirror, and behind it all, manipulation. Eyes Wide Shut shows us a society governed not by law, but by structure. The powerful do not command, they suggest, they do not punish, they erase. This is the same logic that governs public discourse today. Control is exerted through narrative, not force, through distraction, not repression, through illusion of choice, not chains. Ziegler's final monologue is not only for Bill, it is for us. You got lucky, he says, you were allowed to leave. The implication is clear, stay quiet, forget what you saw. The masks are not just protection, they are permission. Wear yours, and you may proceed. Remove it, and the system will remind you where you belong. But there's a deeper horror. What if the system no longer needs to remind us? What if we've internalized the rules so deeply that we police ourselves? What if the mask feels more natural than the face? What if when the mirror reflects back something true, we look away? That is the world Eyes Wide Shut predicts, and the world we now inhabit. A world where marketing tells us who we are, where dissent is filtered, where desire is commodified, where trauma becomes trend, and through it all, we perform, smiling, scrolling, consuming, projecting, but never pausing to ask who is behind this mask. The film offers no answers, only a gesture, a tilt of the head, a half glimpse in the mirror, a breath caught in the throat. The audience becomes complicit. We watch Bill's descent and call it fiction, not realizing we are watching ourselves, because we too entered the party without knowing the password. We too hoped to observe without being seen. We too were warned and told to forget. The brilliance of Kubrick's design is that it hides nothing, it shows everything, but it does so in plain sight, knowing that most will watch with eyes wide shut. Only those willing to look, truly look, will understand that the ritual was not a deviation, it was a reflection. Understand that the masks are not only theirs, they are ours. Understand that the mirror does not lie,
but it does wait, and sooner or later, it reflects us all.